Hey guys, it's Veronica and I'm back with another video. So today we're going to go over all of the books that I've read so far in quarter one. So it's been kind of a really long time since I've sat down in front of the camera and done one of these like talking videos about books, but I actually really like making these videos where I kind of like wrap up my reading. I know I'm not a booktube channel, but I enjoy that content and so I am participating. So yeah, we're just gonna go over the books from quarter one. I think if I did like a monthly wrap up, that would be like way too much. So quarterly for me. And I have my tablet here with my Goodreads open so I can just like look at my list of books that I've read so far. So if I'm looking down, that's what I'm looking at, just to check my list and check my star rating. So quickly, a little bit of reading stats before I talk about each individual book. So far, I've read 9 books. 3 of them were graphic novels. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 were nonfiction. I read 1 cozy mystery, a middle grade book. That's all of them. And I kind of got a late start to my reading. I didn't really do much reading in January. And then I tried to like get into reading in February. And then in March, I made the decision that I'm going to write book reviews for every book that I read this year and post them on my blog every Friday. So I haven't completely stuck to that schedule, but it has been motivating me a lot to get more reading done on a more consistent basis. So even though I only read 9 books in quarter one, I'm optimistic that my stats for quarter 2 will be a lot better. So fingers crossed that I can keep up the momentum and read a lot more in quarter 2. Okay, so let's get into the books. The first book I read this year was Bait and Witch by Angela M. Sanders, and that was a cozy mystery. I downloaded this back in October of last year because I thought, oh, you know, I want like something witch themed to read around Halloween. And I started reading it back then and I put it down and I didn't read any books for the rest of the year. And I finally decided to pick it back up in January and freaking finish it. So yeah, it took me a really long time to get through this book and it was okay. It's about this girl who is a librarian in Washington, D.C. and she ends up like witnessing some kind of, you know, backdoor deal and she reports it, and I think she reports it, and so she ends up being blackmailed and she has to like, I don't know, like relocate and like hide her identity because people in the capital and in DC are like after her. So she moves to this small town and gets a job as a librarian in their like tiny little, you know, neighborhood library, and also she's a witch. It was like a lot of stuff going on. I thought the whole like blackmail plot was very unique for a cozy mystery because that's a lot more like high stakes than what usually like pushes the main character into a small town. And you know, magic is also a unique element, but I just feel like there needed to be like way more development of the magic and the magic system that was going on in there. And yeah, so I ended up giving this one only 3 stars. It was fine, but it wasn't my favorite cozy mystery. The next book that I read was The Last Fallen Star by Gracie Kim. And this is one of those Rick Riordan imprint books. So, you know, Rick Riordan, he wrote the Percy Jackson series, and then now he like finds other authors and publishes their books based on like mythology from other cultures. So this one, The Last Fallen Star, is related to Korean culture, and that's actually why I picked it out, because I live in South Korea. I'm married to a Korean person, And yeah, I was just curious to see what kinds of Korean mythologies and legends and stuff would come out in this story. So since this book is middle grade, it obviously wasn't written for me. I'm an adult woman, so I didn't always like click with the humor. Also, like the pacing was like really breakneck speed. But I think that's kind of how the Rick Riordan books are. Like, they're going on an adventure. It's almost like a scavenger hunt. They have to find one thing and it leads them to another thing, and then they have to go find somebody else. And so that's how this series is. So that's how this book was too. And I think obviously it's aimed for a younger audience. So this story takes place in LA. It's about Korean Americans, and they have this like secret magical society where they are like granted with special gifts based on like the elements, and it's related to these Korean gods and stuff. And the main character, she has to go on a quest to save her sister's life. So she encounters lots of different people and creatures along the way that help her like figure out, you know, whatever she's trying to figure out. No spoilers. And yeah, so it was really interesting to see how the author incorporated Korean mythology and also like the LA landscape. And I was really surprised by like how much they included from like LA, because the author is actually from New Zealand, I believe. So yeah, I was like, wow, could have fooled me, because I'm from Southern California. I'm from the LA area, so I was a little familiar with some of the landmarks that they mentioned. But the funny thing is that I kept asking my husband about Korean stuff that would come up in the novel, like different creatures and different myths and stories and stuff. And some of the stuff he was familiar with, like, yeah, that's like a common Korean myth. Like some of it even I was familiar with too. And then there were other things that he was like, what is that? Nobody knows what that is, or like nobody talks about that, or like that's not how that works, or that's not as important as the author's making it seem. And so that was kind of interesting. But obviously, like, it's a fantasy novel and the author has creative license, so they're taking elements of Korean culture and then like expanding upon it. So I don't expect everything that the author writes to be like based in reality that like my husband would have learned in a history book. So yeah, I'm not mad about that. And overall, it was like a fun adventure book. Definitely more for the younger audience, but still really fun. And it was a nice way to bond with my husband too. So I ended up giving this one 4 stars. The next book that I read is a nonfiction book. It's called I'm Not Fat, I'm Pregnant. And then there's like a whole subtitle, like the ultimate guide to pregnancy, blah, 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 blah. I don't know what the whole thing is, but it's a book about pregnancy, obviously. Oh, I forgot to say the author. This is by Jackie Brown, and this author is also from New Zealand. So some of the stuff that she wrote about in this book only applies to people living in New Zealand with New Zealand healthcare. But overall, it's a book that goes like week by week and trimester by trimester, talking about like the developments and things to expect. And the author writes in like a really humorous way. So it always starts off with like her own daily diary about like how she's feeling throughout her pregnancy, and it's very humorous. And then she'll introduce some like facts about like what to expect during that week, also keeping it in kind of a humorous tone. And then at the end of the book, there is a long section about like labor and birth and stuff like that. And interspersed, there's lots of like testimonials. I don't know, is that the right word? From other people who have given birth and gone through the experience of being pregnant, and just like giving their opinion about different topics and their own experiences. So you get like a really wide range of opinions and a wide range of experiences to look at. So I really enjoyed this book. This was the very first pregnancy book that I read. It's the only pregnancy book that I've read, actually. And I'm glad that I chose this one, because if I had read something that was like really clinical, I think I would have been like overwhelmed and freaked out. And I'm really trying not to overwhelm myself with pregnancy facts because it can be overwhelming and gross and just, causing anxiety. So I'm glad that I had this book that had a really more like casual and humorous approach to delivering the information. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. The only downside to this book is obviously like they didn't go like super in depth in certain topics. Like there's still some aspects of birth and labor and delivery that I need to know about that this book didn't talk about in depth. So I ended up giving this book only 4 stars because it wasn't the ultimate guide in my opinion. Like there could have been more information, but I still think it was a good introduction into what this whole pregnancy journey is about. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. Next, I read a series of graphic novels. I read the Tea Dragon series by Kay O'Neill. I was going to say Kate, that's wrong. Kay O'Neill. And this series has been really popular on BookTube, I've noticed, because it's like really adorable illustrations and very cozy and soothing manner of storytelling. And I have to agree, the illustrations are superb, like extremely beautiful. And the stories themselves are very like calming and uplifting and really sweet. So yeah, I definitely understand the hype now. So the first in the series was the Tea Dragon Society, and that's where you kind of are introduced to the concept of tea dragons, and you're also introduced to a few main characters and like just the whole world. And I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I felt like not a whole lot happened, and the thing about the tea dragons is that when you brew the leaves from the tea, when you brew the leaves and make a tea, you're able to like experience the memories of that dragon, something like that. I'm explaining it not well. But I don't know, maybe I came in with the wrong expectations. I thought it was going to be a little bit more magical. So it just being like literally like all you do is drink tea, I was a little bit like underwhelmed by that. And I didn't really see like the purpose or the function of like wanting to drink that tea. So yeah, the first one was cute, but I wasn't like super impressed by the story. So I only gave it 3 stars. The second book in the series is the Tea Dragon Festival. And this one I really liked. I thought it did a way better job of like giving like character arcs. It was like a full story, and the function of the tea played a much bigger role in the story. Like I understood like why this would be like a valuable commodity to have, like drinking the tea and having that experience because of this story. So I really liked the second one. I really loved the characters, the relationships. Oh, I love that there was like a full story arc, and that the tea played like a really functional role in resolving the story. So that was great, and I gave that one 5 stars. I thought it was beautiful. The third book, or the last book in this series, was the Tea Dragon Tapestry, and I thought this one was nice. I thought it was a better story than the very first book. It seemed a little bit like the author had like tweaked her art style a little bit, so some of the characters look different. Like obviously for this one, time had passed, so they're supposed to look a bit different, but I don't know, it was like something about the eyes and like the coloring seemed just like different. So it kind of threw me off, and it bugged me for some reason. It's like such a tiny little nitpick, but it did bother me. And then one of the main characters, her backstory is that she like went through this traumatic event and she ended up like having memory loss, but then she keeps like giving details about her past life. And I'm like, well, if you had memory loss, like how are you talking about it now? I don't know, that's probably like not the point of the story. It's supposed to be about mental health and healing and friendships and stuff like that. But I was like really caught up on the fact, like, if you had memory loss, how are you telling me stories about your past life? I don't get it. So besides that little loophole problem, it was still a nice, calm, uplifting story with beautiful art. So I did give it 4 stars. The next book I read was another nonfiction, and this was Lessons from Madame Chic by Jennifer L. Scott, who is a YouTuber here on YouTube. And I am a subscriber. I enjoy her content. She talks a lot about homemaking. She gives like recipes. One of her big things is like the 10 item capsule wardrobe, and so she does a lot of like fashion videos, just like how to live like a more refined and calm and beautiful life. So I enjoy her videos. I don't always agree with her opinions, I'll just say, but I do appreciate the content that she makes. And so I was interested in reading her books because she has a series of books, the first one being this book that I read, The Lessons from Madame Chic. And this is about the time that she spent in Paris on like a study abroad homestay experience and all the things that she learned from her host mom. And so there's chapters on things like diet, exercise, hosting guests, dressing well, enjoying the arts and culture and stuff like that. So each chapter is a different topic. She gives some anecdotes about her time while she was living in Paris, which I really enjoyed. I liked seeing like those kind of snapshots of Europe and kind of her painting a scene. And then she gives advice, like her tips and like specifically what she learned. And then at the end of each chapter, there's like a bullet pointed list of like the main takeaways from each chapter. So I really enjoyed the structure of the book. I enjoyed the little Parisian escape. I will say that some of the opinions expressed were not my favorite. It was a little bit judgmental towards other women, like judging based on how they look and how they dress. And so I did not like those portions, but I still found there to be lots of useful information in this book, lots of useful advice and enjoyable anecdotes. So I gave this book 4 stars for that. Because it's something that I think has value, I would personally revisit this book to like check her list of tips and see how I can incorporate them into my daily life. So yeah, 4 stars. After that, I read Jennifer's second book, which is At Home with Madame Chic. Oh, this one I can read because I can see it. Becoming a Connoisseur of Daily Life. This book I thought was way, way better than the first because of the tone of the writing. It was so much more like gentle and compassionate in the way that she like delivered her advice. And I just really liked the topic a lot more because it was focused on like daily routines, like morning routine, afternoons, evenings, and giving specific advice about like how to enjoy the small moments in life, preparing meals and keeping your home clean and organized and creating like a nice atmosphere for you and your family. So I just really enjoyed the topic a lot more instead of like it being like all different aspects of life. So yeah, this one I enjoyed just the overall topic a lot more. And like I said, the general like tone, the delivery of how she was giving advice was so much nicer. So like no judgment in this one at all. And I like really had my antenna up for that because I was nervous after having read the first book. So this one I thought was just like so much better. Unfortunately, the one thing that was a little disappointing was that there were not as many like enjoyable anecdotes in this book. It was a lot more just like advice, and a lot more like there were some anecdotes, like she of course would incorporate stories of like her own experiences and why she does things the way she does based on those experiences, but it was a lot more like serious, more like heartfelt moments. Whereas in the first book, a lot of the stories that she told were really like funny or surprising or shocking. So yeah, it was just like a tonal shift, and I kind of missed having those like more fun and funny stories about Paris. But like I said, overall, I really enjoyed this book. So I give it 5 stars. It was very good. And the last book that I read in quarter 1, which technically I finished it on April 2nd, but I started it in March, so I'm counting it as a quarter 1 book, was Spark Joy by Marie Kondo. And I am a huge Marie Kondo fan. I read The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up back in like 2015, and it like totally rocked my world, totally changed my life. I did the whole decluttering thing. I did the whole Marie Kondo method back when I was living in America, and just like the results blew my mind. And so I have continued to use the KonMari method in the way that I organize my belongings and store things. And I just really enjoy organizing. I really enjoy it so much that I've even thought about like taking the course to become a certified KonMari consultant, but that course is really expensive, so not doing that. But despite all this, despite being such a huge fan, I never read her second book, Spark Joy, where it goes more in depth into like answering like common questions and trouble spots. And there's also like illustrations for people who like couldn't figure out how to fold a t-shirt. Like there's illustrations that will help you in this book. So yeah, since we've got a baby on the way, I've been in a little bit of nesting mode, trying to get the house in order, trying to really like streamline what we have and make sure we don't have any clutter or, you know, excess belongings taking up unnecessary space. So I started a series on my blog going through each step of the KonMari method, giving like a general overview, giving some personal advice, and then also sharing a bit of things that I decluttered in my house. So if you want to check that out, it'll be linked down below. The series is not done because I got stuck on my kimono, my miscellaneous items, and I'm struggling a little bit to motivate myself to keep doing it, because when you're 30 weeks pregnant, it's hard to want to get up and use your energy to do stuff like that. I would rather sit on the couch and watch YouTube. Anyways, I'm rambling. So yeah, I finally read Spark Joy. I was a little nervous because I thought, like, how much more new information could there be? Like, I feel like she already went into a lot of detail in the first book. But no, she goes micro on this one, like real micro, a lot more small details that she talks about. And some of it is repetitive, like some of it she does have to kind of rehash what she talked about in the first book, which I understand. Like if you're going to talk about a particular concept, then you have to kind of like go back and like define what it is, and then you can build on it. So I knew that there would be some repetition, but some of it I do think was maybe a little bit unnecessary. So yeah, for that reason, I didn't give it a full 5 stars. I give it 4 stars because there was a lot of new information. There was a lot of good advice for, like I said, trouble spots or like difficult categories. Yeah, I enjoyed this one. I feel like my knowledge deepened, my organizing knowledge, my decluttering powers have been increased by reading this book. So yeah, enjoyed it. Every book that I read this quarter was on my Kindle. So I think going forward, I'm definitely still going to be reading books on Kindle because I have a Kindle Unlimited subscription. So I would like to get my money's worth. But I also have so many, like I'm staring at my bookshelf, I have so many physical books that I haven't read yet. And they're just like sitting on my shelf. And I'm eager to read them. So I think going forward, I'm going to try to have like a better balance of ebooks, audiobooks, and physical books. So we'll see how that goes. Also, I really enjoy like reading nonfiction, self-help and stuff, especially with a baby on the way. I feel like there's a lot of pregnancy specific things that I need to learn. So I will definitely be reading more nonfiction books going forward, but I don't want to like restrict myself from enjoying fiction novels and just like enjoying a good story. And I think I maybe have overdone it in quarter one with the nonfiction because I read so many in a row. So for quarter two, I've already started reading some fiction novels and I'm really enjoying that. And I'm going to kind of intersperse sporadically some nonfiction so that it's a little bit more balanced in that way as well. So of course this video has ended up being longer than I anticipated it would. I thought I would be like really short and snappy with it, but no, I had a lot to say about all of these books. So if you watched this far, thank you so much. I hope that you enjoyed this. Let me know down in the comments, what books are you reading? What did you read in quarter one? And also let me know if you have any requests for other book related content. I don't want to turn this channel strictly into a booktube channel. I don't think I even have enough to talk about to make it a booktube channel, but it is a hobby that I really enjoy, so I definitely want to make more videos about books and about my reading and stuff like that and share that with you. So if you have any requests or ideas, let me know in the comments and I will try my best to bring that to you in the future. Alright, so don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe if you don't want to miss any videos from me in the future. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!